The plasma bolt missed Lieutenant Jake Morrison's head by inches. He rolled behind the shattered remains of a Krivani war pillar, his rifle already returning fire. 3 shots, 3 bodies. The alien soldiers collapsed in the purple dust of their homeworld, their ceremonial armor no match for human ballistics. "Morrison, fall back!" Captain Elena Vasquez screamed through the comm. "The palace is secured. We won!" Jake didn't move, his eyes locked on the massive doors ahead, the ones leading to the royal chamber. Somewhere behind those doors was the reason this war had dragged on for 8 brutal years. The Krivani Empire had refused every peace treaty, every ceasefire. Their princess had sworn to fight until every human was dust. He'd lost friends to that oath. Good people. Danny, who used to joke about opening a bar on Mars. Lisa, who'd promised to teach him guitar after the war. Commander Pierce, who'd dragged Jake out of that minefield on Epsilon Station. All dead because one alien royal couldn't let go. The doors exploded outward. Jake's finger tightened on the trigger, but he froze. She stood in the archway, tall and regal, her silver skin gleaming under the emergency lights. 4 arms, elegant and deadly, eyes like molten gold burning with hatred and defiance. The crown on her head was made of living crystal that pulsed with her heartbeat. Princess Thyraven of the Krivani Empire. She raised one hand, energy crackling between her fingers. "You will not take me alive, human filth." Jake stepped forward, lowering his rifle slightly. His heart hammered against his ribs. It couldn't be. The face was wrong, aged by war and responsibility. But those eyes, that specific shade of gold with flecks of amber near the center. "Sonny?" The nickname fell from his lips before he could stop it. The energy died in her hand. She staggered back as if he'd shot her. "What did you call me?" "It's me, Jake, from the colony." Her second set of arms trembled. "No." Jake Morrison died. The colony was destroyed. Everyone died. I survived. The rescue ship found me in the escape pod. He took another step closer, memories flooding back. 2 kids on a forgotten mining colony. A human boy and an alien girl who didn't care about species or politics. They'd been 7 years old, playing in the crystal caves, naming constellations, promising to stay friends forever. Then the raid came. Pirates. Fire. Screaming. He'd thought she died. She'd thought he died. "Prove it," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Tell me something only he would know." Jake's throat tightened. "You were afraid of the dark. I gave you my flashlight. You called it your little son. That's why I called you Sonny. The princess of the Krivani Empire, the architect of humanity's bloodiest war, fell to her knees. Jake's rifle clattered to the ground. He moved forward, instinct overriding 8 years of combat training. But Thyravan raised all 4 hands, stopping him. "Don't." Her voice was steel wrapped in agony. "Don't come closer." "Sonny, Don't call me that." She stood, the crown pulsing brighter. "That girl died 20 years ago in fire and blood. You were supposed to die too. The report said no human survivors. I searched the wreckage myself. The pod launched during the explosion. They found me drifting 3 days later." Jake's hands hung useless at his sides. "I asked about you. They said the Krivani girl was killed in the initial blast." Lies. She turned away, her robes trailing purple dust. Or perhaps convenient truths. My father found me, brought me home, told me humans had raided our peaceful colony, murdered my guardians, left me for dead. The words hit Jake like physical blows. That's not what happened. Pirates attacked, mixed crew. They didn't care about species. They just wanted the platinum deposits. I know that now. Thyravan's laugh was bitter. Do you know when I learned the truth? 3 months ago? I found my father's private records. Every lie, every manipulation. He used my grief to start this war, used my rage to fuel 8 years of slaughter. Footsteps echoed behind Jake. Elena and her squad appeared, weapons raised. Lieutenant, step away from the target, Elena ordered. Belay that. Jake didn't turn around. Lower your weapons. Sir, that's the enemy commander. She's responsible for... I said lower your weapons. The command voice Jake rarely used cut through the tension. That's an order, Captain. Elena hesitated, then signaled her squad. The rifles lowered but didn't drop. Thyravan watched the exchange with those golden eyes. You've become a leader. The Jake I knew could barely lead himself to dinner. War changes people. Jake took a careful step forward. You learned that too. I learned to kill efficiently. She gestured at the palace around them, the bodies of her own guards littering the halls. I learned to hate, to channel my pain into strategy. Do you know how many humans I've killed, Jake? Do you know how many Krivani I've killed? Silence fell between them, heavy with the weight of countless graves. When the war started, Thyravan continued, I volunteered immediately. I was 15. Too young by our standards, but my father made an exception. I told myself each human I killed was justice for you, for us, for that burning colony. I did the same. Jake's voice was barely a whisper. Every mission, every battle, I thought I was avenging you. We've been killing each other's ghosts for 8 years. The truth of it settled in the air like radiation. 2 children who'd sworn friendship, now standing on opposite sides of a war built on lies. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't drowning in blood. Elena's comm crackled. Captain Vasquez, command wants confirmation. Is the princess neutralized? Before Elena could respond, alarms shrieked through the palace. The crystal crown on Thyravan's head blazed with light. No, she breathed. Father, what have you done? What's happening? Jake demanded. The failsafe. Thyravan's forearms moved frantically across a holographic display that materialized before her. If the palace falls, if I'm captured or killed, the planetary core destabilizes. The explosion will consume everything within 3 light minutes. Your fleet, my people, everyone.
How long?
17 minutes. Elena was already on the comm. Command, we need immediate evacuation. Planet's going critical. Negative, came the response. Fleet needs 30 minutes minimum to reach safe distance with current positioning. Jake grabbed Thyravan's upper arms. Can you stop it? Her golden eyes met his. Only my father can. He's in the deep bunker beneath the southern continent. Even with your fastest ships, you'd never reach him in time. Then we're all dead. No. Thyravan straightened, decision hardening her features. Not all of us. The royal transport can achieve light speed in Atmo. It's forbidden, catastrophically dangerous, but possible. I can reach the bunker in 9 minutes. I'm coming with you. Jake, I didn't survive 20 years and a war just to lose you again in the last 17 minutes. He picked up his rifle. We do this together or not at all? For the first time since the doors had exploded open, Thyravan smiled. It was small, broken, but real, just like the crystal caves. They ran! The royal transport screamed through Krivani atmosphere at speeds that would have vaporized any other craft. Jake's body pressed into the co-pilot seat as G-forces that should have killed him were barely compensated by the alien inertial dampeners. We have 11 minutes, Thyravan said, her forehands dancing across controls designed for her species. The bunker defense grid will target us the moment we enter range. Can you override it? My father stripped my access codes 3 months ago. When I started questioning the war, her jaw tightened. He knew I was getting close to the truth. The transport shuddered as they broke through a cloud layer. Below, the southern continent spread out like a wound on the planet's surface. Volcanic ranges glowed orange against purple rock. Somewhere in that hellscape was the man who'd orchestrated everything. Jake checked his rifle, then the sidearm, then the combat knife. 3 weapons against a fortified bunker. Terrible odds. He'd faced worse. There, Thyravan pointed. The entrance is hidden beneath that caldera. Of course it is. Jake watched the volcano grow larger in the viewport. Does your father know you're coming? He's known since we left the palace. He's monitoring everything. She adjusted their trajectory, diving steeper. Jake, he'll have the Imperial Guard with him, elite soldiers, the ones who actually survived the war because they stayed here protecting him. How many? 50. Maybe more. You're joking. I rarely joke about impossible suicide missions. She glanced at him, golden eyes flickering with something between fear and determination. You can stay with the ship. I'll go alone. Not happening. You're being irrational. I learned it from you. Remember the cave-in when we were kids? You insisted on digging me out yourself instead of calling for help. I was 8 and stupid. You were brave and loyal. Jake's hand found hers, the one closest to him. Her silver skin was warm, almost feverish. Same as now. The transport's collision alarm screamed. Thyravan's hands blurred across the controls, rolling the ship sideways as energy beams tore through the space they'd occupied. The defense grid had activated. Hold on! The world became a nightmare of spinning sky and ground. Thyravan pushed the transport into a spiral dive that would have impressed any human pilot Jake had ever flown with. Beams of coherent energy crisscrossed the air around them, each one capable of reducing the ship to atoms. 8 minutes, she said through gritted teeth. They hit the caldera entrance at full speed. The transport's shield scraped against volcanic rock, throwing sparks that lit up the darkness. Down, down, down into the planet's crust. The temperature gauge spiked red. Hull integrity dropped to 40%. There, Jake pointed at a massive blast door embedded in the tunnel wall. Thyravan didn't slow down. She armed the transport's forward weapons and fired everything. The blast door exploded inward just as they reached it. The ship burst through into a vast underground complex, all polished metal and pulsing lights. Imperial guards were already moving, weapons tracking the transport. Can't land, Thyravan said. They'll destroy us before we touch down. Then don't land. Jake moved to the emergency hatch. Get close to that platform. 10 feet. What are you? No? Absolutely not. 7 minutes, Sonny. We don't have time to argue. She snarled something in her native language that definitely wasn't polite, but angled the transport toward a landing platform swarming with guards. Jake waited until they were directly overhead, then hit the hatch release. He dropped. 10 feet became 15 in freefall. Jake tucked and rolled as he hit the platform, the impact driving the air from his lungs. Plasma bolts immediately tore up the metal around him. He came up firing. The first guard went down with a round through the faceplate. The second lost his weapon hand. Jake was already moving, using their own people as cover, his rifle speaking in short, controlled bursts. Above, Thyravan brought the transport around in a maneuver that should have torn it apart. She fired the ship's weapons into the guards, clearing a path. Then she jumped too, all 4 arms spread wide, crown blazing with power. She landed like vengeance itself. Energy exploded from her hands in waves. Guards flew backward, their armor cracking. One tried to raise a rifle. She caught him with her lower left hand and threw him 30 feet into a wall. Another managed to fire. She deflected the bolt with a shield of pure force, then collapsed it inward, crushing the guard's weapon into scrap. Jake had never seen her fight before. It was beautiful and terrifying. "The throne room," she said, not even breathing hard. "He'll be there. He always watches from his throne." They ran through corridors lit by emergency lighting. More guards appeared. Jake's rifle emptied. He drew his sidearm, kept firing, kept moving. Thyravan tore through opposition like they were paper, but there were so many. A plasma bolt caught Jake's shoulder. He spun, went down. The pain was white-hot agony. "Jake!" Thyravan was beside him instantly, her hands pulling him up. "Keep going," he gasped. "I'm fine." "You're not fine." 5 minutes. "Go!" She hauled him forward with her lower arms while her upper arms continued fighting. They burst through another set of doors into a massive chamber. At its center, on a throne of living crystal, sat Emperor Vectar. He looked like an older, masculine version of his daughter. 4 arms, silver skin. But his eyes were cold amber instead of warm gold. "My dear daughter," he said calmly, "you've brought a pet human to die with you. How sentimental. Deactivate the core destabilization," Thyravan commanded. "Now." "No." Vectar stood. "This war was supposed to unite our people, make us strong. You've ruined everything by being weak. You started this war on lies. I started this war because we needed it." His voice echoed through the chamber. The Krivani Empire was stagnant, dying. We needed an enemy. The humans were convenient. Jake raised his sidearm, one-handed, arm shaking. "You killed billions for politics. I killed billions for empire." Vectar's smile was cold. "And in 4 minutes, I'll kill billions more, including my disappointment of a daughter." Thyravan's crown exploded with light. "Then you'll die first." Energy collided in the center of the throne room with a sound like reality tearing. Thyravan and her father moved faster than Jake's eyes could follow. Forearms against forearms, power against power. The living crystal of the throne shattered. Metal walls buckled. Jake rolled behind a pillar as debris rained down. His shoulder screamed protest, blood soaking through his uniform. He needed to help, but this wasn't a fight he could shoot his way through. This was power on a scale humans didn't possess. 3 minutes, the computer voice announced in Krivani. Jake's translator chip rendered it in flat, emotionless English. Vectar's laugh echoed through the chaos. "You can't beat me, child. I've spent 20 years preparing for war. You've spent them playing soldier. I learned from the best killer in the galaxy." Thyravan shot back. She caught her father's strike with her upper arms, used her lower arms to sweep his legs. He twisted mid-fall, landed in a crouch, sent a wave of force that threw her across the room. She hit the wall hard enough to crack it. The crown flickered. Jake fired. 3 shots, center mass. The bullet struck Vectar's personal shield and dissolved into sparks. The Emperor turned his attention to Jake. "The pet has teeth." How amusing. He raised one hand. Jake felt invisible pressure close around his throat, lifting him off the ground. His feet kicked uselessly. The sidearm fell from his grip. "I remember you now," Vectar said, walking closer. "The human boy from the colony. My daughter cried for weeks after you died. It was beautiful. That grief shaped her into the weapon I needed." Black spots danced in Jake's vision. He clawed at his throat, at nothing, at air that had turned solid. "Except she wasn't the weapon you wanted. Jake managed to choke out. She found the truth, a temporary setback. Vectar's grip tightened. After today, there will be no truth, only my version of history. The humans destroyed themselves with a desperate final attack. My daughter died heroically trying to stop them. I'll have 50 years to rebuild, to prepare for the next war. Let her go! Thyravan was on her feet, crown blazing brighter than before. Or what? You'll kill your own father? Yes. The certainty in her voice made Vectar pause. In that moment of distraction, his concentration wavered. The pressure on Jake's throat loosened just enough. Jake's hand found the combat knife on his belt. One chance. He threw it with every ounce of strength he had left. The blade wasn't aimed at Vectar. It flew past the Emperor's head and buried itself in the control console behind him, the one with the countdown display. Sparks erupted. The countdown flickered. 2 minutes, the computer announced, then 2 minutes, again, then silence. Vectar spun, his concentration breaking completely. Jake fell, gasping. Thyravan didn't hesitate. She crossed the distance in a heartbeat, all 4 hands striking in perfect synchronization. Her father raised his defenses, but rage had made her faster, stronger. You used my love as a weapon, she said, each word punctuated by another strike. You turned my grief into hate. You made me a monster. I made you strong. Vectar blocked, countered, but he was being driven back. I made you matter. You made me a killer of innocence. Her upper right hand caught his face, drawing silver blood. I trusted you. I loved you. And you built an empire of lies on a child's broken heart. They crashed through the throne room wall into another chamber. Jake forced himself to his feet, staggered after them. The combat knife had bought them seconds, maybe a minute, but the countdown was still active somewhere in the bunker's systems. He found them in what looked like a command center. Holographic displays showed the planet's core pulsing red with building energy. The timer read 1 minute 40 seconds. Thyravan had her father pinned against a console, one hand around his throat, the other 3 holding his arms. Deactivated. Now! Blood ran from Vectar's mouth, but he smiled. If I can't have my empire, no one can. We all burn together, then burn alone. Thyravan's crown flared one final time. Energy poured from her into him, not to harm, but to connect. Her eyes went distant, golden light bleeding into her father's amber gaze. Jake, the console. Green symbol, 3rd from the left. Jake didn't question. He lunged for the console, found the symbol, pressed it. A holographic keyboard appeared, all Krivani script. I can't read this. I'm in his mind, Thyravan said, her voice strange and echoing. I see the code. I'll guide you. She began speaking in rapid Krivani, calling out symbols. Jake's fingers flew across the holographic keys, following her instructions. He had no idea what he was typing, only that every second counted. The timer read 1 minute 15 seconds. Vectar screamed. The mental connection was burning both of them, silver blood running from Thyravan's nose, her father convulsing in her grip. Keep going! She gasped. Almost there. 50 seconds. Jake's hands shook. The symbols blurred together. He made a mistake. Had to backspace. Lost precious seconds. 40 seconds. Next sequence, Thyravan said, and her voice was fading. Red spiral. Then the double line. Then she coughed blood. Then the star pattern. Jake found them, entered them. The holographic display shifted, showing new options. 30 seconds, Thyravan whispered. 6 symbols. I'll show you. But Vectar, even dying, even with his mind being torn apart, found one last reserve of strength. He broke one arm free and slammed it into the console. The holographic keyboard shattered into fragments of light. 20 seconds. No. Jake grabbed at the fragments, but they dissolved in his hands. Firavan released her father. Vector collapsed, breathing in ragged gasps, his mind shattered by the forced connection. She turned to Jake, golden eyes meeting his one last time. "The escape pods," she said. "In the hangar we passed. You can make it. Not without you. I can stop it manually." She moved to a different console, one with physical controls instead of holograms. "But I have to route all the destabilization energy through the bunker's power core, through me." 15 seconds. Jake understood. No, there has to be another way. There isn't. She smiled, and she looked like that 8-year-old girl again, the one who'd given him half her lunch because he'd forgotten his. "I started this war. Let me end it." "Sonny, go, Jake. Please. Let me save something. Let me save you." 10 seconds. Jake's feet refused to move. Every instinct, every moment of training, every survival mechanism honed over 8 years of war screamed at him to run. But his hand reached for hers instead. "Together," he said, "like the crystal caves." Thyravan's eyes widened. "Jake, you'll die. Then we die." He gripped her upper right hand. "I'm not losing you twice." 5 seconds. She could have thrown him across the room, could have used her power to force him away. Instead, her other 3 hands flew across the controls, entering commands faster than thought. "You're insane," she said, but her voice broke with something that might have been hope. "I learned from you." 0. The world turned white. Energy from the planet's destabilizing core surged through the bunker's power systems, through the command center, through the console Firavan had her hands on. It should have vaporized them instantly. Would have vaporized them if she hadn't been channeling it, redirecting it, absorbing it into herself. Her crown exploded into 1,000 fragments of living crystal. Silver skin began to crack, light bleeding through. She screamed but didn't let go of the controls. Jake held her hand and felt the energy burning through her into him. His human body wasn't built for this. Cells died and regenerated and died again. His vision went red, then black, then filled with colors that didn't exist. He tasted copper and ozone and something sweet like the fruit they'd shared as children. "Let go!" Thyravan begged. "Jake, please let go." "No." He poured everything he had into that grip. Every memory of that burning colony. Every friend he'd lost, every enemy he'd killed, every nightmare and every moment of hope. He channeled it through their joined hands into her, and somehow, impossibly, it helped. The energy found a balance. Human and Kryvani, weakness and strength, mortality and power. 2 children who'd promised to stay friends forever, holding that promise against the death of a world. The light grew brighter, then brighter still, then began to fade. Time lost meaning. It could have been seconds or hours. When Jake's vision cleared, he was on his knees. Thyravan had collapsed beside him, her silver skin scorched black in places, the crown completely gone, but she was breathing. They were both breathing. The console sparked once, twice, then went dark. Every display in the command center showed the same message in Kryvani script. Core stabilization successful. Jake's translator chip barely had power left to render it. "We did it," he whispered. Firavan's eyes fluttered open. All 4 of her arms were burned, 2 of them badly. She tried to smile and manage something between a grimace and a laugh. "You're an idiot." "Yeah." Jake slumped against the dead console. But I'm an idiot with a pulse. Footsteps echoed from the throne room. Jake tried to reach for a weapon, but his arms wouldn't respond. If it was more Imperial guards, they were done. Elena Vasquez appeared in the doorway, rifle raised, half her face covered in dust and blood. Behind her, a mixed squad of humans and Kriavani soldiers, their weapons lowered in an uneasy truce. "Lieutenant Morrison," Elena said slowly, "Command is reporting the planet stable. What happened?" "Long story." Jake looked at Thyravan. "Short version? We stopped it." One of the Krivani soldiers, a young officer with silver skin paler than Thyravan's, stepped forward. "Princess, we monitored the Emperor's vital signs. He's alive but unresponsive." Thyravan dragged herself to a sitting position. Every movement clearly caused agony, but she kept her voice steady. "Take him into custody. He'll stand trial for war crimes. All of them. Every order, every lie. Your Highness, the Empire is broken." She met the officer's eyes. "And I broke it. I followed his orders, led his armies. I'm as guilty as he is." "That's not true," Jake said. "It is." She turned to Elena. "Captain Vasquez, I formally surrender myself to human authority. I'll testify to everything, every battle, every strategy, every crime committed in my name." Elena looked between Jake and Thyravan, clearly trying to process what she was seeing. "Ma'am, I don't have authority to accept surrender from a head of state." "Then get someone who does. But I'm done running." Thyravan's forearms trembled with exhaustion. "The war is over." "Really over. No more lies. No more death." "The fleets," Jake said suddenly. "Are they standing down?" Elena checked her calm. Both sides received the destabilization cancellation signal. They're holding position, waiting for orders. She paused. "Sir, Command wants to know if we have control of the situation." Jake looked at Thyravan, the alien princess who'd been his childhood friend, his enemy, his savior. She looked back with those golden eyes that had haunted his dreams for 20 years. "Yeah," he said, "we have control." The Krivani officer approached Thyravan carefully. "Princess, what are your orders?" "General, ceasefire. All Krivani forces stand down immediately. Open communications with human command. And someone get me a holocom. I need to address the Empire." Within minutes, they jury-rigged a portable holocom from the command center's damaged equipment. Thyravan knelt before it, burned and broken, her crown gone, her father's blood still on her hands. But her voice was clear when she spoke. "People of the Krivani Empire, I am Princess Thyravan. The war is over. We lost. But more than that, we were wrong." Jake watched as her image was broadcast across the entire empire, to every ship, every colony, every home. "My father, Emperor Vector, built this war on lies. He manipulated my grief to create a conflict that killed billions on both sides. I believed him. I led our armies. I am responsible for countless deaths." She paused, and Jake saw tears mixing with the silver blood on her face. "The humans are not our enemies. They never were. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that truth." The broadcast ended. Silence filled the command center. Elena's calm crackled. "Captain, we're receiving surrender signals from Krivani forces across the sector. They're standing down." "Confirmed here, too," another voice added. "Admiral Chen reports the same from the fleet. It was real. After 8 years, after billions of dead, after everything they'd lost and sacrificed and broken, the war was actually ending." Jake felt Thyravan's hand find his again. Not all 4 hands this time, just one. The simple gesture of a friend reaching for a friend. What happens now? She asked quietly. Trials. Testimony. Truth. Jake squeezed her hand gently. Rebuilding. They'll want me executed. Probably. Will you speak for me? Jake thought about Danny and Lisa and Commander Pierce. He thought about all the Kryvani soldiers he'd killed. He thought about 2 children playing in crystal caves, promising friendship that would last forever. Yeah, he said, I'll speak for you. 6 months later, Jake stood in the rebuilt Unity Hall on neutral space station Meridian. The gallery was packed with humans and Kryvani, survivors and victims, soldiers and civilians. Every major news network in both civilizations broadcast the proceedings. Thyravan sat in the defendant's dock, wearing simple gray robes instead of royal regalia. The burns on her skin had healed into silver scars. Without her crown, she looked smaller somehow, more vulnerable. But her eyes were clear. The tribunal consisted of 3 human judges and 3 Kryvani magistrates. They'd spent 5 months hearing testimony. Today was the final day. Jake had testified 3 weeks ago. He'd told them everything. The childhood friendship, the lies both sides believed, the choice she'd made to save billions instead of herself. The prosecution had tried to discredit him, called him compromised, said his judgment was clouded by personal history. They weren't wrong. The tribunal has reached a verdict, the lead human judge announced. The hall fell silent. Princess Thyravan, you are found guilty of war crimes, including ordering attacks on civilian targets, authorizing the use of prohibited weapons, and command responsibility for atrocities committed by forces under your control. Thyravan didn't flinch. She'd known this was coming. However, the lead Kryvani magistrate spoke now. The tribunal also recognized unprecedented mitigating circumstances. You were manipulated from childhood. You acted on false intelligence provided by your father, and when you learned the truth, you risked everything to end the conflict. More than that, another human judge added, your actions in the final hours prevented the extinction of both species. Your testimony has exposed the full scope of your father's conspiracy and prevented future conflicts built on similar lies. Jake's heart hammered. He knew how tribunals worked. Mitigation didn't mean freedom. Therefore, the lead judge continued, you are sentenced to 20 years of supervised service. You will work with the Joint Human Kryvani Reconciliation Commission, helping to rebuild what was destroyed, facilitating peace talks, and ensuring this never happens again. Gasps rippled through the gallery. The prosecution looked furious. The defense looked shocked. Additionally, the Kryvani magistrate said, you are permanently stripped of all royal titles and privileges. You are no longer Princess Thyravan of the Kryvani Empire. You are simply Thyravan, citizen and servant of peace. Do you accept this sentence? The lead judge asked. Thyravan stood slowly. I accept, and I swear I will spend every day of those 20 years and every day after working to heal what I helped break. The gavel fell. It was done. Jake waited outside the hall as she was processed and released into the custody of the Reconciliation Commission. When she finally emerged, flanked by security but no longer in chains, he stepped forward. Hey, Sonny. She smiled, and it reached her eyes for the first time in months. Hey, Jake. They walked together through the station's observation deck. Below them, human and Kryvani ships floated side by side, former enemies learning to be neighbors. It would take generations to heal completely. Some wounds never would, but it was a start. I saw the reports, Thyravan said. You resigned your commission. Yeah. 30 years in uniform was enough. Jake looked out at the stars. I'm joining the commission too. Someone has to make sure you don't start another war. That's a terrible reason to take a job. I have a better one." He turned to face her. "We made a promise once. 2 kids in crystal caves. We said we'd be friends forever. That was a long time ago. Doesn't make it less true." Jake held out his hand. "So what do you say? Want to try keeping that promise?" Thyravan looked at his hand for a long moment. All 4 of her hands trembled slightly, scarred and marked by the war they'd both fought. Then she reached out and took his hand with one of hers, a simple human gesture of friendship. Together, she said, "Like the crystal caves, like the crystal caves." They stood there as ships passed by the viewport, 2 former soldiers who'd become children again, and then friends, carrying the weight of a war but no longer crushed by it. The universe was broken, but not beyond repair. The work ahead would be brutal and painful and would never truly end, but they'd face it together. Behind them, a mixed crew of humans and Krivani worked on repairing a damaged section of the station. Someone laughed, someone else responded in broken translation. Small moments, simple kindness between former enemies. "You know," Jake said, "I still have that flashlight." "The one I gave you." "You're lying." "I'm not. It was in my footlocker when they evacuated the colony. Survived everything." He pulled it from his pocket, old and battered but functional. "Your little son." Thyravan's eyes filled with tears. She took it carefully, like something sacred. "I can't believe you kept this. I kept the promise too. Just took us a while to remember it." She clicked the flashlight on. The beam was weak after all these years, but it still worked. In the reflection of the viewport, it looked almost like a small sun lighting the darkness between stars. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, even when you should have." Jake shook his head. "You're my friend, Sonny. Friends don't give up. They stayed there until the station's artificial night cycle began, watching the ships and stars, 2 souls who'd found each other across war and lies and impossible odds. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and full of darkness. But there was light too. Small lights, flashlights held by children who refused to forget their promises. And